Hello, Soul Family. I am Shannon Pardini, and I am here today with Jason Crist. I am Quantum Heart Conversations, and we are diving deep on the topic of the superpowers of rock climbing. So, before I introduce Jason to you, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio here. Jason is a holistic coach. He's a people leader and business manager. He takes stand for community, movement, and inspiring personal and transformative growth. He invests in people. He helps them to discover their potential and understand their core motivators and drivers. Jason finds passion through movement and connection and pushing himself past his comfort zones so that he may grow and evolve, then share what he learns with others. Jason's goal is to motivate others to push themselves and to love themselves. On climbing, Jason's been climbing for 9 years. Yosemite Valley has changed his whole life and paradigm. Climbing the walls of Yosemite has become Jason's motivator to train, eat well, and to do his best as a true superhuman. And let me tell you, I have known Jason for quite some time, and he has always just been such a leader in personal growth, in truly knowing your body and honing your superpowers. This man here is just the pictures that I've seen of him on the mountains and just watching him over the years grow into, topping some of the craziest faces I've seen in Yosemite is, I'm just proud of you and I love you. And you have so much to offer all of us here. So Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself and share a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Jason. I've been climbing for about 10 years now, about 6 years climbing outside. I got my start in a gym at Planet Granite in San Francisco, which is actually also where I work now. Before that, I was a really avid soccer player for pretty much all my life. And yeah, transitioning out of soccer and into climbing was really good, really healthy, kind of helped me get over a lot of competitive, um, competitive cycles that I was in, and helped me kind of like compete with myself a little bit rather than trying to size up against everybody else. And it was good for that. It's very community oriented sport.
I love that. Yeah, I know that you guys have quite a crew at Planet Granite, and it just keeps evolving and evolving. That's so lovely to have, especially during these times. And, why don't you backtrack a little bit? And you have such a connection with Mother Nature. You always have. And I loved hearing your childhood stories with your siblings, how you would all connect. Go ahead and share that inspiration and how it kind of transcends into rock climbing and so forth.
Yeah, when I was growing up, my family used to go up to the mountains near Shasta every year, and my dad's real big into gold mining. So we'd get the whole family out, digging around in the dirt and playing in the river and moving rocks around, looking for gold. And believe it or not, finding some at times. um, and yeah, just growing up, being out there, like it was always camping was always such a like good wholesome family experience, and we'd all just kind of get to kick it and like kick back and not be in the city and not be like moving all the time. And it was, I mean, clearly it left an impression on me, because now probably about 60% of my time I'm outside, um, sleeping in the dirt or my car, you know.
Well, hey, you got to stay close to the place you love. So Yosemite definitely has your heart. And I know you've been hitting up a lot of other places in California, but would you say you spend most of your time there?
Yeah, I mean, Yosemite's kind of my heart's home. It's the center of the universe. Um, it draws climbers in from all over the world because it's just spectacular on so many levels. I mean, you could live your whole life there and not climb every rock that there is to climb, and there's still more to be discovered. Um, so, I mean, it's Disneyland. It's everything you could ask for and a million times more. I always like to say the valley provides, because there's times where I'm hungry or there's times where I need I need a friend to climb with, and the valley always seems to provide exactly what I need.
Oh,
So,
that's beautiful, the flow state on the mountain,
oh yeah.
and just finding that serenity and everything just comes towards you. What is the training like for your climbs? I mean, I know you've been pretty much preparing your whole life because you played professional soccer, correct?
Minor league, but yeah.
Minor league, yeah. But I mean, you've always been really physically active, but have you found yourself having to deepen in the skills, and what comes up for the levels that you just keep climbing and ascending higher and higher?
Um, I mean, fitness is always the baseline. You have to be fit if you're going to try to do something big. Otherwise, you won't have fun because you're struggling with, and that's true of any sport. With soccer, if you're not baseline fitness, then you're going to get passed up, and you're going to be like choking on air trying to keep up. Um, so there's definitely a fitness baseline of just having a strong core, balance, cardio, um, finger strength, forearm strength. Um, but beyond the fitness side of it, um, I mean, yeah, that training is pretty vigorous. Like, you know, I probably train about 15 to 20 hours a week. Um, but on the other side, like the preparation side, there's definitely like a mental preparation that goes into it. I mean, anything from climbing like a boulder to a wall, you want to know what you're getting yourself into. If it's a boulder problem, a lot of times, there might be a crux, or there might be like a hard thretchy move or like a sketchy landing, and you just kind of have to assess all of that. And then obviously for like a big wall or like a backcountry excursion, you need to know that you're prepared in terms of supplies, you're prepared in terms of what you're going to have to do up there. A lot of times there's kind of like rope shenanigans. You have to do things like it's almost like engineering with the rope to move gear up, or get from one side of the rock to the other. And then of course there's like the difficulty, like there's grades on climbs going from like five I guess technically 5.0 all the way up to like 515 right now. And yeah, I wouldn't want to be on a 515 and have to get somewhere before a storm comes in. So you got to assess all of that.
Right. And so before you go on these trips, you know which trails you're taking up, or yeah,
Definitely.
that's heavily planned.
Oh yeah. Now you don't want to be off route. It happened to me a lot more when I was first starting out, because I didn't necessarily know how to read the topography. Um, but now it's, knock on wood, it's few and far between that I get lost on a route, and it's a lot less stressful now because I can get back to where I need to be. Um, but yeah, there's definitely been times where you're lost in a sea of granite and you're just like, cool, now what?
And now what? Does a higher power kick in and just it truly, starts navigating for you, or what happens in those moments? Or do you pray? Just kidding.
Well, sometimes I'm probably praying in my head, but no, mostly, I mean, it's really like analytical. It's like a series of like problem solving. You know, there's always the option to like leave gear and rappel. Knock on wood, I've never, well, I guess I have had to do that once. Um, but it's fairly rare that I've gotten into that situation. Usually I don't climb myself into a situation where I can't climb myself out of it. So there's been times where I've climbed, like I've down climbed or done, whatever I need to do to get back to a spot. One time, my buddy and I were climbing, actually on El Cap. We were on the East Buttress, which is a mellower route up it. And we got probably about maybe like 1,600 feet off the valley floor. And there was this waterfall that was just like the wind was coming down the canyon, and the waterfall was blowing directly onto our route. And it was a very slabby section. And so if it was cracks or like, big holds, we would probably be able to move through it. But slab is just featureless, like low angled, smooth granite that you're essentially pasting your shoes up against and kind of like using body tension to like work your way up. And we both gave it a shot. We got about maybe like 10, 15 feet up, and we were just like, whoa, this
No
is way
way.
sketch. Yeah. So we ended up rappelling off of, we left a piece of gear. We rappelled down, and then we just rappelled off trees and other features. And we only fortunately had to leave one piece behind. Gear's expensive, but life is worth more.
Right, exactly. And how scary. And is that known? Is that an area known to do that
It was news to
specifically?
me.
Or okay.
We didn't expect it, but I mean, we were also fairly inexperienced at that point. Now I kind of have a better sense of like if the wind is going real hard, like which direction the waterfalls, because Yosemite's got probably thousands of like little waterfalls, and because it's just this big rim with sheer granite down it, and the water from the high country has to go somewhere, so it's coming down the walls all over the place, and you kind of just got to be cognizant of what the wind's doing and where the water's going to be coming from.
That's amazing. Such a maze and such, I mean, gosh, it's so beautiful up there.
Epic, heaven on earth.
Yeah, I mean, tell me more. So you did a really big, is the correct terminology, ascent recently, didn't you, for your birthday?
Oh yeah, for my birthday, I went up Half Dome. I went up a mellow route. There's
Okay.
uh, there's several routes. One of them goes up the southwest face, and it's like pretty approachable to like even beginner climb. Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe like beginner climbers with a more experienced climber with them. The climbing's not very challenging. The hike is the hard part. Um, but yeah, I try to get up on top of Half Dome every year via either the face or the side, depending on where my fitness and where my gumption's at. Going up the face is uh, it's a mission. Going up the side is kind of like could probably wake up and say, I think I want to do that tomorrow. It's a little chiller.
What is it for you? What keeps drawing you back, like energetically?
To
What
Half
word?
Dome,
Just in general with rock climbing, I know you could live up there and probably do it every day.
easy.
Yeah. So what is that draw for someone like myself that's never experienced rock climbing? Like I love hiking and I love backpacking and so forth, but I can only be out there for a week or two and then I'm like, okay, I need a little break. But what is the draw with, moving your body? I would think there would be a level of fatigue, but maybe not at a certain point
Oh,
where
for
you're,
sure.
yeah.
You're knackered by the end of it. Yeah, it's an interesting question. The why do we climb question. There's no real good answer. I mean, I guess for me, and that's the other thing. I think it's different for everybody. For me, I think I approach it almost as like a discipline, like it's like my kung fu. I call it wall yoga sometimes because I'll get up there and I'm just doing the craziest, weirdest body positions that I didn't premeditate. It's kind of like the wall dictates what I need to do to get up it. Um, so there's definitely the aspect of like the practice, the mastery of our own body, our own mental inhibition. Like, I mean, it's absolutely insane to see this sheer thing and say, I'm gonna go up there. Like, it goes against everything that like self-preservation tells us to do. Um, but yeah, there's definitely the practice of it, the movement, the flow. I mean, flow state. Yeah, it's. Uh, I mean, how do you even describe it? It's something that when you're in it, you don't necessarily know, but when you come out of it, you look back and you're just like, I just did that, and I wasn't even thinking about it. That was just like purely like energetically me moving through something in the way that I needed to be most efficient. Um, but yeah, I mean, so definitely the practice of it. I also love the nature aspect of it. Like I love surfing as well, mountain biking, anything that's got me outside, doing stuff like breathing air, like hanging out with trees. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's also like, I guess I have like a degree of animism in my heart. So I feel like the rock, to some degree has a consciousness. It's lived its life to become a rock. At some point, it was just molecules that attracted molecules that uh, made it granite, and they merged and they formed this thing. And it's really romantic to me to think about all of the other legendary climbers who have touched the same holds that I'm touching. And it's almost like there's this lineage of rock climbers that we've done the same dance, we've done the same art, and we're getting the same strengths. And it really like forges you into the climber you become,
Yeah, that's really beautifully said. And I just love the connection that we do get with the trees and the rocks. To me, it's the same thing for me when I'm out in nature. I've just formed this communication, and I truly feel like they speak really loudly at times, and it's hard not to want to leave them for too long, because that frequency of energy is so amazing, and you get so lost in time. And so I can imagine with rock climbing, I would think that you would have to be kind of time specific for certain things with weather, or whatever you're dealing with. And that's an interesting combination, to be in flow state but then to be aware of time at the same time. It seems like I don't know, like you would be bending time a little bit in those types of areas.
Yeah, I mean, um, time is definitely a factor. You don't want to necessarily be out there when it's dark. I mean, we climb in the dark all the time. Um, Sometimes we have to rappel in the dark, which is not ideal. Um, but yeah, there's a ticking clock, especially like depending on the season. Sometimes it gets really cold up there, and if you're struggling on a section and your belayer's sitting down there freezing, it's not that fun. Um, but I mean, that's kind of part of it too. Is like it's not always fun. There is a fair amount of suffering that goes on, and you take that with you afterwards. And like, I mean, I go into work on Monday, and it's like, yeah, I was like freezing my butt off all weekend, like on a rock wall, like eating protein bars and like goo packets, and like I don't know, people are complaining about their commute. It's perspective.
Right. Yeah. I think it's like the greatest neurofeedback of them all. When your brain gets to test yourself on that level, it's such a balance on your whole life with the perspective and, just what our intake is, right? On just the personal material, even with, food elements and so forth. When you're in such extreme situations like that, coming back in, everything's so easy.
Really, it's
but,
funny.
but it provides such balance too, right? It's like you can truly enjoy that coffee because you're not eating proteins and goo for 3 days straight.
That's for damn sure. Yeah, the first thing I do, I go and get an acai bowl for breakfast, and then
Yeah.
I'll get like a burrito for dinner. I'm just like, oh man, I can eat like a king now.
Yeah, it's the rewards. I absolutely love that. That's brilliant. What else can you share with us, for the leadership skills, that you've developed over time and, with rock climbing in mind? What can you share with our audience? What would be something that, just to encourage them to go out and try, even like a place like Planet Granite? Because to me, I feel like rock climbing just, it really helps develop and dissolve some aspects of fear and, the building of confidence and so forth. What's your inspiration there?
Um, well, in terms of like leadership, um, I've always kind of been like a coach or like captain figure on the teams that I've played on. I'm an older brother, um, so what I've noticed with climbing that I really love and appreciate is that there's kind of like um, no BSing. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse here.
You can.
Okay. Yeah, there's no bullshitting. You can't really like pretend. Like if you can do something, you can do something. If you can't do something, like it's pretty clear. And the leader is going to be the person who knows what's up. And most of the time I'm fortunate enough to climb with people who are uh, either close to my level or stronger than me. And so there's not really ever any like, well, we should go this way. Um, but with climbing, since it is like literally life and death, um, it's really easy to step into that leadership role when you know what you're doing is the right course. Um, and I find that in a lot of other walks of life, people fake it till they make it, and it works for them. But with climbing, like you don't want to fake it because you put yourself and someone else in a very dangerous situation. So that's why I was saying, like, if somebody's going to climb, Snake Dike, the easier route up Half Dome, go with somebody who knows what's up. um, but yeah, in terms of like starting out and what you essentially gain out of that and overcoming fear and inhibition and all those things. I mean, starting out is hard. The learning curve is fairly steep in the beginning because mechanically our mind and our body, you see climbing, you're like, oh, I'm going to pull up on these things. But really it's more, you're using your hands to kind of like hold you in place, and you're using your feet to get up. So it's tricky and it's hard, and it's physically demanding. But as you push through that, as you move through that, like regardless of your body type, you learn how to use your body and you learn how to optimize, and you'll gain endurance, you'll gain the muscle. And so it's kind of a lesson in perseverance. In terms of the fear, you learn to trust things like your ropes, your gear, your friends if you're bouldering, because hopefully they're catching you when you fall. Which is another thing, like, if you're bouldering outside, go with people who know what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, just the growth that I see in people, like the swagger they gain as they continue to climb, you just gain all this self-confidence. And like climbing has this grading system where you're climbing a V1, then you're climbing a V2, and you work your way all the way up to I think they're up to V16, V17 now. I'm not, I'm not there.
Is that the highest it goes?
Yeah, that's like futuristic, like alien climbing. They're on some, like, they're holding these like micro crimps. I'm pretty sure they have little like Velcro tips or something going on.
Wow.
Alien humans.
Amazing.
Um, but yeah, it's like your progress is measurable right there in front of you. And like even if you're not progressing grade wise, you'll be like at like a plateau, and you'll work something that like is hard for like a few days, maybe a few weeks, sometimes years, and then one day you figure it out and you get it. And it's like, on the one hand, like, oh cool, you just climbed this stupid rock, congratulations. But on the other hand, it's like work that you've put in. It's like muscle memory, strength. There's a lot to be said about we call it projecting, where you work something that at one point is way too hard for you, and then you end up figuring it out.
And to know your body in that way, even for me, with singing and, learning my body as an instrument, it's the same for you. Your body is the instrument there. And most of the time as humans, we don't even tap in to any of it. And there's so much mastery just within ourselves and our bodies. And so what an incredible space to truly know the anatomy and the physiology and the hormones and everything going on in that space.
Yeah, that's one of my other favorite parts. Um, I'm a, what would you call it? Like a body nerd, I guess. Like I've been a personal trainer in health and fitness for most of my life. And with climbing, sometimes the difference between sending and not sending can be flexing your oblique or turning your toe from this way to this way. Like the craziest minutia can make a world of difference. There's a boulder problem in Yosemite called Cocaine Corner, and you're like working your way up this arête, which an arête is like the corner of a rock. And so you're working your way up, and it ends up getting like kind of steeper and steeper, and you get like worse and worse feet to stand on. And the very last move, there's this glorious horn, this like big thing that you can just like reach up and grab. But if you release your right hand, your feet blow. But I figured out finally that if you turn your knee in this way, it's real easy to grab. And it's just like that climb I probably spent maybe 6 or 7 sessions trying to do before I figured out that one little just slight tiny knee adjustment. And then all of a sudden, like, well, I'd like to say it goes every time, but that'd be a lie.
Well, that, I mean, it's just amazing, those dynamics. There's always a way. And again, I think that's the fun of it all, right? Is
Yeah.
when you finally nail the weirdest position and your body just dynamically uses its superpowers to pull you up. I mean, right there is probably got to be the highest of highs.
Oh yeah. No, we get up there and monkey call, hoot and holler. It's just like it's hilarious.
I love it. And so what is the next big climb you're going to do? Because I definitely want to have a conversation when you come off the mountain for that next one.
That's a good question. The weather window is kind of closing in Yosemite. Um, I was thinking about trying to do El Cap in a day, but I might be a little ambitious for this time of year. So we'll probably the whole climbing crew that I hang out with out there is probably making their way down to Joshua Tree soon. Excuse me. Um, so down in Joshua Tree, it's a little bit of a different vibe. It's not so much like mission oriented as it is like we're gonna go try really, really hard on shorter stuff, on smaller stuff. Um, so I kind of go to Joshua Tree every year to get fit, stronger, but also I mean, the desert is a very harsh teacher. And every single year that I'm down there, I learn new lessons, and I challenge myself in different ways, whether it's with the cold or with like going out and doing kind of stuff that's a little bit more remote. The isolation aspect is pretty cool. Um, yeah, that's that. And Red Rocks out near Vegas. There's some stuff I want to do out there, but the time for really big stuff is kind of over until about March. So now it's going to be focusing more on like really hard stuff. Although I might actually go down to Mexico, and there's some walls down there. That that's we'll see, but those are like 2,500-foot walls, and
Wow.
it's a different style from what I'm used to. I'm used to climbing trad, which is where you plug pieces of gear as you go. And El Portero Chico in Mexico is sport, so you have like draws and like these carabiners attached to each other. It's a little less sketchy feeling, but maybe arguably more challenging. It's a different style.
Very interesting. So is that like with many different climates and countries, is there just so many different styles of climbing?
Yeah, I mean, there's like so trad is like ascending via cracks and plugging protection as you go. Um, Sport is like with draws where there's bolts already in the rock and you follow the bolt line. Bouldering is like pebble wrestling. It's like smaller rocks that are anywhere from like 5 to like 35 feet. And that's always going to be like harder, more technical, more concentrated. And then of course there's like ice climbing and mixed climbing. And sure, speed climbing. Um, so there's definitely different styles and so many different types of rock that each rock is different to climb on. Like so we have sandstone out here in the Bay Area, and sandstone is very like it's like sandpaper, so you can kind of like paw onto it and stick to it that way. Granite's very like slick and technical, and you have to be very precise with your feet placement. Um, Limestone is kind of like juggy, like more similar to like gym climbing. If there's anything that was like most like gym climbing outside, it would be limestone. Like this weekend, I climbed up at Mount St. Helena in Napa, which is like volcanic rock, and so it's got all these like funny little pockets in it, and you like put your fingers in pockets, and yeah. So there's different styles, different types of rock, and I mean that's another thing I love about it is there's so much variety, and every rock is so different that every time you like learn to climb on it, it's like getting a new badge.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We don't really sit and think about that. Again, and plus you like adding to that the culture of rock climbing and the people that these different rocks that, you're all drawn to. That's got to be just very interesting dropping into every time in the mentality.
The community aspect is one of my favorite parts. And not just the fact that like there's all these cool people um, that gravitate towards the same places, but it's like there's legends in these places. Like you go, like I was in Yosemite a couple weeks ago, and there's like I won't name names, but a couple people that you've probably seen in movies if you watch anything about climbing, just like eating breakfast right next to us. And that's just kind of like the nature of it. It's um you get like you get weather windows in these like places, and so people want to be there at those times, and so everybody's got their own objectives, but like you're gonna see the Hall of Famers, the legends, when you go out to certain places at the right time of year.
Oh,
um
so fun.
yeah, and then the community side of it, like if you're going out to Yosemite and spending 2 weeks sleeping in your van, sleeping on a wall, pooping in a bag, like you're a very particular kind of person. And anytime you gravitate towards people who are like-minded, you get some synergy. And um, just the vibes, like that's part of the magic of Joshua Tree, is people go out there and climbers camp, and climbers will see each other, and it's hard to get campsites out there, so climbers will see other climbers and they'll be like, hey, is there a spot? And you end up having this like really cool mix of people from all over, like multicultural, uh, different parts of the country. And the vibe is like we want to climb and we want to have a good time. And you get like last winter, we had a campfire in our site every single night, and people would be playing music and singing, and there'd be like 30 people throughout the night just like coming in and out, and the vibes are just so good. And at the end of the day, everybody's out there to work hard, to climb, to improve themselves. And we're all chasing this adventure and this freedom and this like personal growth, whether we know it or not.
That's beautiful. I just love hearing this side of it. All of it is fantastic. But again, for someone who's never dived into the culture and who's been so curious, just that joy, having that community on that level. And I love it that they're all there to work hard and really to, ascend themselves, personally, physically, all of it. And then all these artistic qualities come out later in the night that you all get to enjoy. That just sounds incredible to me, and I'm so glad that you get to share this with us all. And so tell our audience, Jason, you offer so many different things, but where can my audience find you? What's your different websites or Instagram handles, or if someone wanted to train with you and so forth?
Yeah, so I'm a private instructor at Planet Granite in San Francisco. Um, so there's a website you can book me. My name's Jason Crist. So just request if you want to work with me. Um, there's my Instagram is also a good way to get in touch with me. It's JasonCrist 0828. Yeah, like if I'll post on my story oftentimes like where I'm at if I'm climbing in a new spot. And yeah, if somebody wants to come get on some rock with me, like hit me up.
I love it. Yeah, reach out. Good communities. And I'm Shannon Pardini. You can find me on shannonpardini.com is my healer website. This is Quantum Heart Conversations podcast that you'll be finding on multiple channels. And any last words, Jason, to our audience? I just absolutely loved our conversation and adore you as my friend for many years.
It's
But
mutual.
what would you love to share before we close up?
Well, I mean, I would say, if there's something you want to do or there's something you want to try, something that makes you feel alive, shoot for it. Be relentless about it and be gentle with yourself because, I mean, I've been climbing for 10 years now, and um, there's things that are still really hard for me, but you know there are things that were hard for me 2 years ago that are easy for me now, and it's just kind of the natural progression. um, don't leave anything on the table. Just live live as hard as you can, and um, go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Find the freedom within yourself to be as authentic as possible.
Amen.
Love it. All right, audience, we love you. Thank you.